I'm going to be sharing with you how to do some waves, so how to get that curled look as they're curling over and crashing. And I have also had requests for some jagged petals like you would see on peonies or marigolds, so I'm going to show you a couple of those. And that will keep us busy for tonight. So I'm going to get my stuff over here and get onto my overhead camera. There we go. And let's come over here. All right, so the two things I'm just going to share with you guys tonight. The first one is curling waves, or how to get waves that look curled, okay? And that was requested by Miss Brenda Martis. And so I've got some an example painting here that I actually did with Miss Brenda when we did in a class, and it has a few kind of just barely peaking waves. This is more of a calm looking ocean, but I'm going to use this as my prop for how to create more of a rolling wave that you could do in this type of situation. And then I'm also going to create it on some paper just so you can have it as a standalone. Okay, so I'm going to get my foam plate out here. We're going to get some colors on, and I'm putting out some wicker white and some Prussian blue. Ooh, a lot of Prussian blue. All right, and some teal. There we go. Okay, and so let me get a couple of different brushes here. I'm going to get, first I'm going to get an angle brush. I didn't put any paper towel out, so let me get some of that. There we go. So let's come down, oops, here. All right, and I'm going to also put out some floating medium. I'm not going to need it for this, but I will need it later. So let me grab that so I have it here. There we go. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to load, I've got a 16 flat here, and I'm going to load this with, if you can see the color here, this is kind of a teal with white. So I'm going to load it with all white. Okay, and then, oops, that's a lot of white. And let me come over here and get a little bit of this teal and work it into my brush, okay? So work it in with the white so it matches some of this background color here. And then I want a nice crisp white on the edge of my left edge of my brush, okay? So, okay, so as you can see here, we've got a few waves that are just starting to tip over, right? And I just want to show you real quick how you create this kind of little dip right here. So if you're doing more of a calm wave and you come along here, and I've got white on the right hand side of my brush, I come along and I kind of tip this white edge down. I push down by twisting my brush. Can you see that? And it's creating a little drop forward of the white, and then stand it back to the chisel edge as you come along. So that's a very easy way just to start to roll the tip of that wave over, okay? And you're going to do that more further out where there's, or on a calm water, you can do it close in like this. And then you can go along and then tip it back down and then stand it back up, little bits of it like that, so it looks more like it's curling over, okay? And to really give this depth, we're going to come in and do a little bit of shading. But the next thing I want to show you is how do you get a wave that will truly roll over, okay? And so what you want to do first is kind of get underneath here. I'm going to just take the corner of my brush and darken some of this area as it comes forward right in here, and then I'm going to pull my wave over the top of that. So let me get just a little bit of Prussian blue on that corner also, and just work that in with the teal, so we get this kind of creating a little bit of a shaded area underneath the wave, okay? So a little dark area. Now I'm going to come and let me wipe off my brush, so I want nice clean white. But before I do that, I'm going to come and get Prussian blue. All right, so just Prussian blue on my chisel edge of my brush, right? I'm not working it in, it's not heavy, okay? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come along, this is going to be the top of my wave up here. And so I'm going to come along, I'm going to go from left to right, and as I do, I'm going to make a downward angle turn and pull it down straight. So you're pulling it straight down forward, all right? And then you go along a little further and pull it down like that. And you're creating little rises, but it goes at an angle. So the angle is always, let me show you this way. Angle is always like that, depending on the way where you are in relationship to the wave. But it's always nice to look at it from the side. Okay, so you make that little hump and then you pull it down. All right, little hump and pull it down. All right, once you get that in place, then you come in with your white. All right, so I'm going to get white on the chisel edge of my brush right here. And I'm going to come back to this start of my wave here, and I'm going to sweep it down like that. So I'm getting the blue underneath with the white. Wipe that off, pick up fresh white, come back here, create that little hump, slide along, and then down at the angle. So your angles always need to be in the same direction, okay? And if you keep going over it like I just did there, while it's wet underneath, it's going to blend it and create a lighter tone. So be careful of that if you want to create that more white. But keep the humps a little high, and then you go up and then angle it down. And then you can come back over here to kind of bring them together, okay? One last time with the white, and we're going to go up and then crash it over, come back and blend it in slightly. All right, so that's our wave that's falling over, almost like you're making a waterfall, exactly. And then as it's starting to kind of go back to flat water, you can just pull a little bit so that white over, like it's coming along that way. And same thing here where it's barely starting to crest over here, right? They tend to fall in the middle, and then the wave crest gets shallower as you go side to side. So I'm just coming in with a little bit stronger white, and you can decide how transparent you want that to be or not be, okay? And then I like to come in with the corner of my brush and just, whoops, that's a little too much. I wiped it off. So you can get the corner of your brush and you can push up, creating that splash where it hits, okay? Let me get just a little bit more white, and it goes with the corner of the brush, you're pushing up. Let me come down a little bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. And you can use the corner of the brush, or you can use a very small scruffy, but you're just sweeping it up and back, pushing it like you're scrubbing right through here. Scrub, scrub, up, up. And you need white on the front of the brush as you do that. There we go. So that it leaves the white behind. See that? And then you can kind of tap in little splashes here and there. When it's far away, you don't have to do a ton of detail, all right? But this scrubbing up, you've got to have the white on the front of the brush. It's on the corner, and you're going to scrub it up like that, okay? And it goes straight up, and it goes to the right, and it goes to the left because it's crashing all over. All right, and then you can kind of tap it in here. If you want to come back and get some of that dark with the teal, right, you can kind of work it into the foreground of the wave. Wipe your brush off. Let's pick up some of that Prussian. So, whoops, let's back up. That's very close. Back up. You're welcome, Miss Brenda. All right, so I'm just getting those two colors back together here. And you can kind of work that underneath your wave. So I'm just taking the corner of my brush and scrubbing that out. So you've got a little bit of the shadow forming under there. Right, I'm coming out here too. Right, so the eye of your wave is going to be right in here. So you might come in with a little bit of white worked in with the brush with those colors, the teal, a little bit of white, just on the corner here. And you can create a little bit of an eye right in there. It's round, and then put your dark underneath. And you can kind of work those two colors together, okay? But having that little bit of an eye right there, and then maybe a little white coming over it. Probably a smaller brush would be better. There we go. Okay, so now what I like to do at this point is come in with my small scruffy, or you can use a small flat brush. If actually with this small of a distance away, a 6 flat would work. Okay, so I'm going to get a 6 flat and those colors. So I've got white, and I'm just kind of mixing it with that teal, a little bit of white. You don't want stark white. And then tap it so it spreads it apart, kind of like a scruffy would be. All right, and you can come right up in here and create that splash area where it's touching the water down below. You need it to be a stark difference to the actual wave color itself so that it shows up. So if you have to go more white, right, or if you have to come back in with your blue, right, you can streak a little bit of blue back in there too, okay? So you just don't want to get carried away with that. There we go. So streaks of white and blue. All right, but you want that kind of up-down movement on top. It's not flat. And then you can come in here and tap in with that white mixed with the blue or teal right in front of that eye right there. See that? And then carry it off so that you get that light color as it comes through. Okay, if you want to learn more about waves and all the different ways you can create them, I do have a coastal workshop that I taught, and the video is available on my website. And it comes with all the worksheets. I send them to you when you get it. I think it's $39 for the whole thing. If you're not familiar with my website, it is called MichelleMyBelleDesigns.com. There's a link right here on my Facebook page. All right, and I'm just adding a few little upper splash areas as that hits that water, okay? But you want to have this kind of darker area underneath, and then you can wipe off the brush and just put little bits of white in there so it's not all one color, right? And you want water to have movement, and so that you get that by creating different color depths in there, okay? So working that a little bit lighter. There we go. All right, so there's a crashing wave. That's one way to do it. All right, I'm going to put this aside, and I'm going to show you real quick with some Prussian blue and getting more of a splashing look, okay? So let's come back here to our 3/4. I'm going to get the Prussian blue, and we want to come, this is some tone tan artist paper here. So I'm going to come back here and create this water that's dark further away. Okay, and then the wave is going to come through this way. So we want to have underneath it this Prussian blue again. So, and the movement of the wave is the movement of the water, and that's the movement of your stroke, okay? And so you're creating this kind of sweeping left to right or right to left, depending on your orientation. I'm going to pick up a little bit of teal now as we come out here where it's lighter. And over here, okay. And a little more teal, and then I'm going to start to get some white. And it's all on a dirty brush. We're going to come right up in here into this eye of the wave, right in there. We create that first. A little more white. And we're creating an egg-shaped eye right in here. And then you can come work back out from there. It's dark at the bottom, right? And light at the top. So I'm picking up the Prussian blue. That's okay if you're late, Miss Kim. We're happy you're here. And so it's Prussian blue, teal, and white. All right, and we're going to come right up here. And create this kind of backdrop for our wave, okay? So it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to get a little bit of medium out here. Okay, so I'll get a little bit of medium on my brush. Let's come over here so I've got the plate on the right side. There we go. Okay, so sweeping, sweeping. See the movement up and back, and then you'll come forward of that dark area and kind of work those together. A little bit of medium, a little bit of teal. It'll be shallower as you come down in this area, okay? Working up into the dark. Just using all those colors together. A little bit of Prussian. You want to bring the Prussian and the teal together, and as it lightens, it gets more white added to it in the foreground. See here? Okay, so you can work on this with medium, and paper is not the best place to do this, but it works. Okay, so now we have kind of our backdrop for our wave. And as I showed you before, I'm going to come in here. I'm going to get some Prussian and some teal, so it's not quite so dark. And we're going to come along and do that hump and then down at an angle. Hump and down at an angle. Still working with a 16 on this. Right, so you go up and then at that angle, and then you come back and kind of fill it in. So you see how it goes up and down here? It's going to go up and down like this as it moves across the top of that wave. And you're just making sure that this angle is always the same every time you come down, okay? All right, so we've got our wave form here. Just like that. And then we're dark behind it. The darkest behind it is going to help us to see the light of the wave in front. Okay, so that's that part of it. Now, I'm going to wipe off my brush, and I'm going to come get the white on the chisel edge of my brush, that's a lot. I really just want it on the chisel edge, just like that, okay? And you're going to come back across here, chisel edge, handle straight, and you're going to come across like you did before, and then make that angle down. All right, and it's going to stay wet, so you can come back and work a little bit of it if you want to. You're creating a little hump up, and then it comes down at that angle. So then you come along in front of that and do the next one, hump up and down at that angle. See that? And you keep pulling it down. And you want it jagged like that underneath, okay? So it's only coming down about halfway down the face of our wave. So down at that angle. Here we go. Thank you all for being on with me tonight. There we go. Okay. All right, so, and it's okay that it's splotchy like that because you want to see kind of light and dark areas of the wave as it's crashing. Okay, so now we can come in with a scruffy. I'm going to use a small scruffy in this case. All right, and I'm going to come over here and we're going to get, I want white and I want the Prussian at the bottom and I want a little bit of teal at the top, okay? So I'm using white to tone these down so they're a lighter shade with the teal and the Prussian on the brush. So white and then half teal, half Prussian. So we got the dark end here. We get a little bit more of that dark. And a little bit more of the light on the top. Okay, so that's a pretty good brush right there. Now, we're going to take this scruffy like this with the light edge up, and we're going to come up where this started to fade away. And I'm going to lay my brush on its side. Okay, so I'm not straight up and down on it like this. I'm laying on its side, and I'm scrubbing up like I showed you with the flat that I did before. Okay, and it's jagged and it's uneven and it's like you're scrubbing, trying to scrub that paint off. Okay, so that's the first process. Then you're going to go a little lighter, so you're going to add some white to the front edge of that. And you're going to come right back here and drop down slightly and you're going to do it again. So you're scrubbing up to get that sea spray coming up at where the wave hits the water below. Okay, so see how it's splashing and then going up like that? I'm going to come and get another level of white lighter, and we're going to do one more time. So you got the brush on the side, on the edge of it, and you're pushing that white up. I'm going to get fresh white because it's a little muddy. There we go. And I'm being a little more deliberate with that stroke, so I'm not going too high. I've got the layers, they're kind of light and dark, and that push of the brush without being controlling of it is giving you all those splashes. Okay, now I'm going to wipe off the brush, the scruffy. It's still got paint in it, but I'm now going to tap into just a little bit of white on the bottom of the brush, and I can come right in here and tap, and it's very little, it's almost dry brush, hardly any on the bristles, see that? And I'm going to come right in here and lightly tap at the tops of those spray marks right up there. All right, and that's going to help lighten them up a little bit. And drop down and do the next row. Okay, so can you see that? Hi, Miss Lucy Mott. Thanks for joining. So just very lightly tapping gives you that little bit of a spray up here. Okay, and then I like to come and just maybe give a few little taps at the bottom of this partial wave where it's not quite completely come across. All right, so you're getting a little bit of breakup in the water on the ends there. Okay, now to finish this off, I'm going to come back to my 16. I'm going to get some medium and a little bit of Prussian, and I'm going to come kind of anchor the bottom of this spray right in here. All right, and then sweep it out. So you're kind of pushing it in. You can even come in with floating medium and side load it and shade it if you want to, but you're just trying to push it to give it a little bit of set baseline where it's hit. There we go. Just kind of push that up in there and then pull it back out into the water. All right, then I'm going to grab just a little bit of the white on the chisel edge of the brush again, and to finish this off, you can come along and just sputter down a few, like I showed you before, where it's starting to curl or starting to come over, but it hasn't quite breached yet, okay? And then you can add a few streaks of fresh white on top, because when it dries it does kind of tone down a little bit and you want a little bit of white on there. Okay, so I hope that helps some of you who were wondering how to do some waves. This is one way to do it, and you can change up your colors for light or dark depending on, you know, what time of day it is, where the water is, right? Different water has different colors, etc., etc. But see, you want to create this sort of light area underneath, a little bit of medium, and open that up a little bit, because that's the thin part of the wave where the sun is shining through it, or the moon, depending on what time of day it is. So, and then work that back into the dark down here. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. Now we're going to switch gears and go to some flowers here. Okay, so I'm going to come over to my other side of my plate, and I'm going to put down some colors here for a marigold. All right, so I've got some Pueblo here. It doesn't want to come out of its bottle. Thank you, Brenda. All right, Pueblo there, and I'm going to put a little bit of apple red out also. There's so many different colors of marigolds out, right? There's pure yellow ones, there's yellow ones with little bits of orange, and there's really dark red ones with very little yellow. So, you know, there's lots of options out there. I'm going to work with one that I kind of like to do, and I'm going to get a smaller brush. So I want like an 8 flat, I think. Okay, so I'm going to get that damp, and I'm going to come, let's grab some yellow, come over here and work in some Pueblo. This is daffodil yellow, Pueblo. Okay, and then I'm going to get a touch of apple red on the Pueblo side. Kind of tint that just a little bit darker red, so it's kind of a rusty red. All right. And we want that bright yellow, so I'm not going to change that right now, but I'm going to show you, we'll add some white to it to get, depending on how bright this shows up or not. Okay, so let's come down here. I've got a couple of sketches here. One's for the marigold, one's for the peony. Okay, so the marigold, the request was for petals that have jagged edges, and that would be like a marigold, a carnation, a peony, any of those types of flowers, okay? And so you have a little marigold head here that I've sketched, and I'm going to take my brush and we're going to start on the chisel, and here is the center right here, okay? And so all the petal strokes are going to come from out of that center. We're going to do the back ones first. So you're staying up on the chisel. You start on the chisel on one side, you make back and forth, up and down, and then pull it into the center. Okay. We're going to do another one. So you're here in the chisel. They overlap each other, right, from there to there. Out, in, and then back into the center. And so that's the process, and you're just going to go around the shape of the flower head. I added a little bit more red in there because I wanted it to be a little darker. There we go. And you have to be careful with the yellow, because every stroke that you do, when you end it, you're kind of pulling it through the red, so it's going to get muddy. So keep picking up in fresh yellow. You can side stroke it or whatever works for you, okay? And we're going to do a little one here, and then work the left side. So you want to angle your brush depending on which way the petals go. And so we'll do a layer. Now, if it's transparent, like you're kind of seeing through this, you can come and side stroke some white on that yellow edge to take away that transparency, because yellow and red and orange are all very transparent colors. And so a little bit of white will pop that out and get rid of that transparency. And you don't have to pick it up every time. You can just do it maybe every 2 or 3 strokes, just to help keep that from looking too see-through. Like I can see my pencil marks here, so it gets rid of that quite easily. Okay, so we've got that first back layer there, and then we're going to do another one from the center. Lots to retain. Yeah, you don't have to retain it all. You can refer back to my lives anytime, guys. You know that, right? You can come back to my business page here on Facebook, go into the live tab, and you can go watch any of the lives that I've previously done. All the demos are there. Everything is still there. They don't get rid of it. So it's not like you have to take it into memory. You can come back and watch and practice. Okay, so see how those petals are kind of flowing? You've got an outward flow, rounded over, and then coming back, sliding back into the center. So everything is coming back to the center. All right, let me get a little more white. I like marigolds too. I just don't like their smell. And I know that's good, you know, because it deters, I think it's marigolds. It deters pests. Like if you have a garden, I know you can put them around your outside edge of your garden, and it will keep like rabbits and moles and stuff like that from digging in your garden. Groundhogs, I don't know if they stay away from it or not, but I used to have a groundhog that would dig underneath. I had a fence that I put 6 or 8 inches down into the soil, you know, dug it down, covered it up, and this groundhog figured out how to dig underneath that. I had to go further, so I'd be like a foot to get him from, but I never planted marigolds, so maybe that should have been the trick. All right, so see how I'm coming around to the front here now? And occasionally I'm side loading that white. Right, so you can kind of create some highlighted petals in here. You don't want to get it too strong with the white, so maybe come back to the yellow after you put that in and go over it, and it will kind of bring that back, pop it out. But you notice as it dries, it does tone down a little bit. I was reading some comments on our One Stroke Facebook group today. People were asking about when they painted. I don't think it was today, actually, it was this week sometime. And people were asking about when you paint on paper, how do you keep it from looking so transparent? And the rule really, I mean, there isn't a rule, but if you're new to one stroke and you don't know, or maybe you aren't new, but it's been a challenge for you, more paint on the brush. Do not starve the paint, especially a small brush. You don't want to add floating medium because it will make the paint transparent. And so stay away from floating medium unless you absolutely have to. If it's so dry it's not moving, but try to add more paint to your brush first so that you're working with a lot more paint than maybe you're used to. See all the paint I have in this brush? You need to have a lot of paint in there. So see how we're working this around, and then we finish with a front right there. Okay, so I've got 2 layers of petals. There can be 3, and a lot of them are different types and styles. Go look them up on Pinterest or Google or whatever you want to do, and then you can do a few little ones here in the back. Okay, and that's how you get that kind of jagged look. Now, the center, you're going to come and get the yellow, and you just tap the corner in the middle here, like that. Come get a little bit of the white, and tap that on top. There you go. So that's your marigold jagged petal. Now, as far as the peony is concerned, let's look at some colors for that. So I've got some pink melon here. If you've never smelt a marigold, go smell one. They don't smell very good. They're not, I don't think they're bought for their smell, but they are pretty. Okay, and I'm going to put out some magenta. There we go. And I'm going to need a bigger brush. So I'm going to get a 16, which I had before. Where did it go? Oh, here it is. 16 flat. And let's grab a bunch of this white and bring it over here. There we go. All right, so when you're working with a peony, it's not a lot different from that marigold, other than the petals are larger and they kind of go cattywampus all over the place, depending on the variety of peony that you're trying to emulate. So you can look at some pictures. I'm going to start out with the pink melon, and I'm going to add just a touch of the magenta and to tone that a little bit. There we go, like a soft pink with a little bit of strength in the center. Okay, all right, and let's get some medium because I'm on a 16. Now I want you to see again, lots of paint on my brush, plenty of paint. Okay, and the important thing here is going to be side stroking this white. Every time you want to stroke a petal, you want to come get fresh white on that outside edge. Okay, so we're going to start from the back, and so this is our center. I have a sketch right here. This is our center right here. And we're going to start from the back, and I'm going to be laying on the flat. So we're starting on the chisel, pressure about half sprung, and you're going to come out and back in, out. Okay, and when you get to where you want to have a few of those ruffles where they're kind of skinny and spiky, then stand to the chisel, add those in, and then come back to your flat. And then pull your petal back in, all right? You can take your corner of your brush and just sweep that out into the petal, okay? So once you break it down to petal by petal, it's not too tough. Come back and get that fresh white, and then let's come and do another one. So pressure, little bouncy wiggles up here on the chisel like that, and then pressure again. Let's come back and then sweep that pink out. Oops, swip my brush over. I hate when I do that. Now, what looks really good is if you can do little jagged pieces, pull those in. So the big wide petals are good, but then they mix it, it mixes it up with these kind of, throws in just a few of these little jagged tipped petals, and then goes back to the big wides again. So okay, so you went around that way. Now let's come this way. So it's little short choppy wiggles, and you're at the chisel, and then you come back to the flat with some smoother strokes, okay? And then you can pull that pink with on the corner of the brush out, okay? Because there is kind of a distance between the center and the edge of the petal, of the outer layer of petals, I should say. All right, I'm going to get a little more white and kind of work that in as I come forward, because these petals down here are going to be kind of lighter in color. And pulling that pink out. Okay. It's key to have a good blend on your brush without streaks if you want to have these colors show up blended nicely before you come to the paper, all right? But if they're not, you can kind of work them into together on your surface as you've laid them out. So don't despair if you leave streaks. You can come back and kind of fix those, like right here. I'm going to add those little jagged petals there and then pull out the streaks. Okay, so that's how you would go around and do that. And there's lots and lots of layers of these petals. So I'm not going to go into creating the entire design for the peony because I'm going to reserve that for the class, for those of you who want to take that class in July. And then you'll learn how to create and construct the entire pink peony that looks like this, okay? But here you're getting just a taste of how to create those petals. And these are the ones where the jagged pieces show up the most, is on these outer petals. So you can come create those little jagged edges. You can pull them back in like that and then come do the smooth like that and then pull it out. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to show you the next layer here. You can do some more of those little choppy strokes. You can pull them in and then smooth back into the center of the flower. Okay. You can come out and do a petal here, stand it to the chisel. Let me show you, let me back up. So we're going to lay it out here, stand it on the chisel, stand up on the handle and roll the white over and bring that into the center like that. Okay, so that gives you some of those petals that just start going in odd different directions, and you can even come right in here. Once you get that shape, then you can come back on the chisel and create those little jagged marks. Okay, and then you would come in and do the center of your flower. All right, so that's the center, or the outer layers, I should say, of a peony. I want to say thank you all very much for joining me tonight.